February 26, 1945, dawned gray and bitter across the frozen battlefields of Western Germany, where Obergefreiter Klaus Richter pressed his face against the periscope of his Tiger I heavy tank. The veteran Panzer commander had survived 3 years of mechanized warfare, from the steppes of Russia to the hedgerows of Normandy. But nothing had prepared him for what rolled toward his position through the morning mist near Cologne. The distinctive rumble of American Sherman tanks had become as familiar to German ears as church bells, their 75mm guns posing little threat to the Tiger's thick frontal armor. Richter's crew had grown confident, almost arrogant, in their technological superiority. The Tiger's 88mm gun could penetrate any Allied tank at ranges exceeding 2,000 meters, while return fire merely sparked harmlessly off their steel fortress. But this morning brought something different. Through his optics, Richter observed an unfamiliar silhouette emerging from the industrial haze. A tank longer and lower than the familiar Sherman profile, its turret mounting what appeared to be a substantial gun barrel. The American markings were clearly visible, yet this machine possessed an aura of lethality that set it apart from previous encounters. "Gunner, target the lead tank," Richter commanded, his voice steady despite an inexplicable unease creeping through his battle-hardened nerves. His loader, Friedrich Weber, slammed another armor-piercing shell into the breach while driver Hans Müller adjusted their hull position for optimal protection. The mysterious American tank moved with surprising grace for its apparent size, its crew clearly experienced in combat operations. Unlike the often hesitant movements of green Sherman crews, this machine maneuvered with the confidence of seasoned veterans who understood their equipment's capabilities. According to declassified reports from the 3rd Armored Division archives, this encounter represented one of the first tactical deployments of America's newest heavy tank, the M26 Pershing. Armed with a 90mm gun capable of penetrating the Tiger's frontal armor at combat ranges, the Pershing had arrived in Europe just weeks earlier, shrouded in absolute secrecy. Richter's intelligence briefings had mentioned no such weapon. German reconnaissance units reported only the continued deployment of Sherman variants and the occasional appearance of British Churchills. The existence of an American heavy tank remained unknown to frontline German commanders, a critical intelligence failure that would prove catastrophic. The Pershing's commander, Technical Sergeant Robert Hayes from Detroit, Michigan, studied his opponent through his own periscope. Hayes had trained extensively on the new tank systems at Fort Knox, Kentucky, where instructors emphasized the 90mm gun's revolutionary penetration capabilities. Unlike his German counterpart, Hayes possessed detailed intelligence on Tiger tank specifications, armor thickness, and vulnerable points. "Range 1,800 meters, called his gunner, Corporal James Mitchell. "Tiger I, hull down position behind that concrete barrier." Hayes nodded grimly. The moment of truth had arrived. America's answer to German heavy armor superiority was about to announce itself on the battlefield. The technological balance that had favored German panzer forces since 1942 was about to shift dramatically, though Klaus Richter remained blissfully unaware that his invincible Tiger had finally met its match. 3 months earlier, December 15, 1944, the first M26 Pershing tanks had arrived at the port of Antwerp under extraordinary security measures. Colonel Creighton Abrams of the 4th Armored Division personally oversaw the unloading operations, ensuring that German reconnaissance aircraft could not observe America's newest weapon system. The Pershing represented years of American industrial innovation, born from harsh lessons learned during early tank versus tank encounters in North Africa and Italy. Detroit's automotive giants, General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, had pooled their engineering expertise to create a machine capable of matching the legendary German 88mm gun. Major General Maurice Rose, commanding the 3rd Armored Division, had specifically requested heavy tank support for the upcoming offensive operations in the Rhineland. His Sherman-equipped units had suffered devastating casualties when encountering German Panthers and Tigers, prompting urgent appeals to the War Department for improved armor and firepower. Technical Sergeant Hayes remembered his first glimpse of the Pershing at the Chrysler Tank Arsenal in Warren, Michigan. The massive turret housed a gun tube that dwarfed the Sherman's 75mm weapon, while the tank's overall weight approached 46 tons, nearly twice that of the standard Sherman. "This machine will change everything," declared Colonel Abrams during the secret briefing sessions. The 90mm gun fires armor-piercing rounds with muzzle velocities exceeding 2,700 feet per second. At typical combat ranges, it can penetrate any known German armor. The secrecy surrounding the Pershing's deployment extended to the highest levels of Allied command. General Dwight Eisenhower personally approved the classification protocols, recognizing that German intelligence networks still operated throughout liberated Europe. Even Allied units received no advance warning of the new tank's arrival, maintaining operational security until the weapon could be employed in combat. According to records maintained by the Army Ordnance Department, only 20 M26 tanks reached European battlefields before Germany's surrender. Each machine represented a carefully guarded technological advantage, deployed exclusively with veteran crews who possessed extensive combat experience. Meanwhile, in the concrete bunkers of the West Wall, German intelligence officers analyzed captured Allied equipment with growing concern. Reports from the Eastern Front described increasingly sophisticated Soviet tank designs, while Western Front commanders complained about inadequate ammunition supplies and mechanical breakdowns among their aging Panzer fleet. Obergefreiter Richter's Tiger I tank had been manufactured in 1943 at the Henschel Works in Kassel, representing peak German engineering capability when materials and skilled labor remained abundant. By late 1944, however, production quality had declined significantly due to material shortages and the employment of foreign workers unfamiliar with precision manufacturing techniques. The psychological impact of German heavy tank superiority had proven as valuable as their actual battlefield performance. Allied tank crews approached Panzer encounters with considerable apprehension, knowing that their weapons often proved inadequate against thick German armor. This mental advantage had allowed outnumbered German units to achieve tactical successes despite overall strategic disadvantage. But the arrival of the Pershing threatened to shatter this psychological dominance. American tank crews would finally possess a weapon system capable of engaging German heavy tanks on equal terms, potentially transforming the tactical dynamics of armored warfare in the war's final months. Technical Sergeant Hayes completed his final equipment checks, ensuring that his crew understood the Pershing's revolutionary fire control systems and ammunition handling procedures. The moment they had trained for was about to arrive, the first confrontation between America's newest heavy tank and Germany's legendary Tiger. January 8, 1945, found Klaus Richter's Tiger platoon positioned among the industrial ruins of Cologne's eastern suburbs, where bombed factories provided excellent concealment for heavy armor operations. The veteran panzer commander had selected his defensive positions with characteristic German thoroughness, utilizing natural terrain features and man-made obstacles to maximize his unit's tactical advantages. Richter's Tiger mounted the legendary 88mm KWK-36 gun, a weapon derived from the famous Flak 36 anti-aircraft cannon that had terrorized Allied bomber formations throughout the war. This gun's reputation for devastating effectiveness against enemy armor had become legendary among both German and Allied forces, representing the pinnacle of German tank technology. The Tiger's armor protection remained formidable. 100mm of hardened steel across the frontal arc, sloped at angles designed to deflect incoming projectiles. Side armor measured 80mm, while the rear plate provided 58mm of protection. These specifications had proven adequate against every Allied tank gun encountered to date. American Sherman tanks approaching from the northwest, reported his radio operator, Unterscharführer Ernst Wagner, monitoring intercepts from German observation posts. Estimated strength, 1 company, supported by infantry elements. Richter smiled grimly. Sherman tanks represented familiar opponents. Their 75mm guns posed minimal threat to Tiger armor at typical engagement ranges. His crew had destroyed dozens of Shermans during the Normandy campaign, often engaging multiple targets simultaneously without sustaining damage. The Tiger's interior reflected German engineering precision. Every control, gauge, and instrument occupied its designated position according to carefully planned layouts. Richter's gunner, Obergefreiter Wilhelm Kruger, possessed exceptional marksmanship skills developed through months of combat experience against Allied armor. According to battlefield reports compiled by the German High Command, Tiger tanks had achieved kill ratios approaching 10-to-1 against Allied armor throughout 1944. These statistics reinforced German confidence in their technological superiority, despite increasingly unfavorable strategic circumstances. But intelligence reports reaching frontline commanders contained disturbing gaps. German reconnaissance units struggled to identify new Allied weapon systems due to deteriorating air cover and communications networks. Critical information about American heavy tank development remained unavailable to tactical commanders who desperately needed such intelligence. Technical Sergeant Hayes maneuvered his Pershing through the rubble-strewn streets with deliberate caution, knowing that German anti-tank teams occupied numerous concealed positions. His crew had studied detailed maps of Cologne's layout, identifying potential ambush sites and escape routes should their mission encounter complications. The Pershing's 90mm gun represented revolutionary American engineering, developed specifically to counter German heavy armor advantages. Its M3 armor-piercing projectile weighed 24 pounds and achieved muzzle velocities exceeding 2,700 feet per second, providing unprecedented penetration capabilities. Corporal Mitchell, Hayes's gunner, had trained extensively with the new weapon system at Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland, where captured German tanks served as targets during live fire exercises. The results had proven spectacular. The 90mm gun consistently penetrated Tiger frontal armor at ranges exceeding 1,500 meters. "Movement ahead," whispered Mitchell, adjusting his periscope settings. "Large tank, hull down position behind concrete barriers. Looks like a Tiger." Hayes felt his pulse quicken. This encounter would test everything they had learned about the Pershing's capabilities against Germany's most formidable tank. The psychological advantage that German heavy armor had maintained throughout the war was about to face its ultimate challenge. The two machines, one representing German engineering excellence, the other embodying American industrial innovation, prepared for a confrontation that would determine the future of armored warfare. February 26, 1945, 11:27 hours local time. Technical Sergeant Hayes gave the command that would echo through military history. "Gunner, sabot, tank." The Pershing's turret traversed smoothly toward Klaus Richter's concealed Tiger, its 90mm gun seeking the precise aim point that would penetrate the German tank's legendary armor protection. Corporal Mitchell centered his sight picture on the Tiger's frontal plate, exactly as instructed during countless training sessions at Fort Knox. The M26's advanced fire control system provided superior target acquisition capabilities compared to earlier American tank designs, incorporating lessons learned from 3 years of armored combat against German forces. Meanwhile, Obergefreiter Richter simultaneously issued his own firing command. "Feuer!" The Tiger's 88mm gun erupted with its characteristic thunderous roar, sending an armor-piercing shell screaming toward the unfamiliar American tank at tremendous velocity. The projectile struck the Pershing's frontal armor with a tremendous crash, producing a shower of sparks and metal fragments. Hayes felt his tank shudder from the impact, but the heavy armor held, a testament to American metallurgy and engineering improvements incorporated into the M26's design specifications. "Direct hit on our frontal plate," reported Corporal Anderson, the Pershing's loader. "No penetration. Armor held." Richter stared in disbelief through his periscope. His Tiger's feared 88mm gun, the weapon that had destroyed hundreds of Allied tanks, had failed to penetrate this mysterious American machine. For the first time in his combat career, the German veteran faced an enemy tank that could withstand his most powerful weapon. According to after-action reports filed by the 3rd Armored Division's Intelligence Section, this engagement represented the first recorded instance of a Tiger tank failing to achieve penetration against Allied armor at typical combat ranges. The psychological impact on German tank crews would prove as significant as the tactical implications. The Pershing's return shot came 3 seconds later. Mitchell's armor-piercing discarding sabot round, a revolutionary American ammunition type featuring a tungsten carbide core, struck the Tiger's frontal armor with devastating effect. The projectile's incredible kinetic energy overcame German steel thickness that had previously proven invulnerable to Allied weapons. The penetration created a catastrophic secondary explosion as the sabot round ignited stored ammunition within the Tiger's fighting compartment. Richter's tank erupted in flames, its turret blown completely off the hull by the tremendous internal blast. None of the 4-man German crew survived the encounter, Technical Sergeant Hayes watched the Tiger's destruction with professional satisfaction, mixed with genuine respect for his fallen opponents. These German tank crews had fought with exceptional skill and courage throughout the war, despite facing increasingly hopeless strategic circumstances. "Target destroyed," reported Mitchell calmly, already traversing the gun toward potential additional threats. The Pershing's crew understood that individual tank duels rarely occurred in isolation. German doctrine emphasized coordinated defensive operations involving multiple armored vehicles. The engagement lasted less than 30 seconds from first shot to final explosion, yet its implications would reshape Allied tactical doctrine for the remainder of the European campaign. American forces finally possessed a weapon system capable of engaging German heavy tanks on equal or superior terms. Word of the successful encounter spread rapidly through Allied communication networks. General Omar Bradley's 12th Army Group headquarters immediately requested detailed technical reports on the Pershing's performance characteristics, recognizing the strategic significance of this tactical breakthrough. German intelligence officers, monitoring Allied radio traffic, began detecting references to an unknown American tank designation, M26, but lacked sufficient information to assess the threat's true magnitude. March 3, 1945 witnessed the systematic deployment of additional M26 Pershing tanks across multiple sectors of the Western Front, as Allied commanders recognized the revolutionary impact of their new heavy armor capability. General George Patton's Third Army received priority allocation of the scarce machines, reflecting both his aggressive tactical philosophy and proven expertise in armored warfare operations. Technical Sergeant Hayes found himself elevated to unofficial expert status on Pershing employment tactics, his successful Tiger engagement having been documented in detailed after-action reports circulated throughout Allied tank units. The psychological transformation among American armored crews proved as significant as the weapon's technical capabilities. For the first time since entering combat against German forces, they possessed genuine confidence in their equipment's effectiveness. Colonel Creighton Abrams established specialized training programs at forward maintenance facilities, ensuring that Pershing crews understood their machines' revolutionary advantages, while respecting the continued threat posed by German anti-tank weapons. The 90mm gun's penetration capabilities were impressive, but the tank remained vulnerable to Panzerfaust rockets and concealed anti-tank guns at close ranges. Meanwhile, fragmentary reports of catastrophic Tiger tank losses began reaching German High Command headquarters in Berlin, where senior officers struggled to understand how their most formidable armored vehicles were being systematically destroyed by previously inferior Allied tank forces. The intelligence blackout regarding American heavy tank development had created a critical knowledge gap. Oberst Heinrich Müller, commanding the 5th Panzer Regiment, filed increasingly desperate reports describing encounters with unknown American tanks capable of penetrating Tiger armor at unprecedented ranges. His veteran crews, men who had achieved remarkable kill ratios throughout the war, suddenly found themselves facing opponents with superior firepower and protection. According to declassified Wehrmacht documents discovered after Germany's surrender, German intelligence services had detected increased American heavy tank production activities at Detroit manufacturing facilities during late 1944, but failed to accurately assess the threat's magnitude or deployment timeline. This intelligence failure proved catastrophic for frontline panzer units. The Pershing's psychological impact extended beyond individual crew confidence. Allied infantry units, previously reluctant to advance without overwhelming artillery support when German tanks threatened their flanks, began displaying increased aggressiveness when M26 tanks provided direct fire support. The entire tactical dynamic of combined arms operations shifted in America's favor. Technical Sergeant Hayes participated in additional engagements throughout March, his Pershing accounting for 3 confirmed German tank kills, including a massive Tiger II heavy tank that had previously terrorized an entire American infantry regiment. Each encounter validated the weapon system's revolutionary capabilities while building Hayes's reputation as an expert Pershing commander. The scarcity of available M26 tanks, only 20 machines reached European battlefields before Germany's surrender, meant that their deployment required careful strategic consideration. Each Pershing represented a precious tactical asset that could potentially alter the outcome of major combat operations. German propaganda ministries, recognizing the threat to morale posed by reports of Tiger tank vulnerability, attempted to suppress news of these encounters while simultaneously launching crash programs to develop improved armor and weapon systems. However, Germany's deteriorating industrial capacity made such efforts largely futile. Colonel Abrams noted in his personal diary that the Pershing's arrival had fundamentally altered American tactical doctrine regarding armored operations. Previously, American commanders had relied on numerical superiority and close air support to overcome German tank advantages. Now they possessed a qualitative edge that promised to transform the final months of the European war. The strategic implications extended beyond individual battlefield encounters. American confidence in their industrial and technological capabilities received tremendous validation through the Pershing's success against Germany's finest armored vehicles. March 15, 1945, brought a cold rain across the Rhineland battlefields, where remaining German panzer units attempted to establish defensive positions against the advancing Allied armies. Hauptmann Otto Steiner, commanding the remnants of the 12th SS Panzer Division, studied intelligence reports describing devastating losses among his Tiger tank companies with growing desperation. Steiner's combat-hardened veterans, survivors of battles from Kursk to Normandy, reported encounters with unknown American tanks that possessed unprecedented firepower and protection capabilities. These machines, designated M26 in intercepted Allied communications, had systematically destroyed Germany's most formidable armored vehicles with apparent ease. "The Americans have deployed a new heavy tank," Steiner briefed his remaining company commanders during a clandestine meeting in a bombed church near Remagen. "Our Tiger crews report that their 88mm guns cannot penetrate this machine's frontal armor, while the enemy weapon achieves consistent penetrations against our heaviest protection." The psychological impact on German tank crews proved devastating. Men who had achieved legendary status through their success against Allied armor suddenly found themselves vulnerable to enemy weapons they could not effectively engage. The technological superiority that had sustained German morale throughout years of strategic retreat had finally been overcome. According to captured Wehrmacht documents analyzed by Allied intelligence teams, German High Command ordered emergency modifications to existing Tiger and Panther tanks, including the installation of additional armor plates and improved ammunition types. However, material shortages and damaged manufacturing facilities made such improvements largely theoretical. Technical Sergeant Hayes, meanwhile, continued his deadly work with methodical precision. His Pershing had become something of a legend among Allied forces, the tank that had broken the myth of German armored invincibility. Infantry units specifically requested Hayes's support for critical operations, recognizing his crew's exceptional skill and their machine's revolutionary capabilities. The M26's advanced optics and fire control systems provided significant advantages during long-range engagements, allowing American crews to identify and engage German targets before enemy guns could achieve effective aim. This technical superiority, combined with superior crew training and abundant ammunition supplies, created an overwhelming tactical advantage. Corporal Mitchell, Hayes's gunner, had developed an almost supernatural ability to identify German tank types at extreme ranges, distinguishing between Tigers, Panthers, and tank destroyers based on subtle visual cues, invisible to less experienced observers. His marksmanship skills, honed through constant combat, rarely required more than one shot per target. The Pershing's logistical requirements, while substantial, remained manageable due to Allied command of European transportation networks. Unlike German forces, which struggled with fuel shortages and spare parts availability, American tank units received consistent resupply through well-organized logistics chains stretching back to Atlantic ports. Hauptmann Steiner's attempts to develop countermeasures against the mysterious American tanks met with limited success. German anti-tank gun crews reported achieving occasional hits against M26 tanks, but their weapons lacked sufficient power to guarantee penetration of the heavy frontal armor at typical engagement ranges. The strategic implications of the Pershing's deployment extended far beyond individual tank versus tank encounters. German commanders, previously confident in their ability to conduct effective defensive operations using superior armored vehicles, found themselves forced to reconsider fundamental tactical assumptions about modern warfare. Technical Sergeant Hayes understood that his success carried tremendous responsibility. Every encounter with German armor served as a test case for American heavy tank doctrine. The lessons learned from these engagements would influence post-war tank development and tactical concepts for decades to come. The hunter had indeed become the hunted, as German panzer crews who had once stalked Allied armor with confidence now faced an opponent that possessed superior firepower, protection, and tactical capabilities. March 23, 1945, marked a pivotal moment in the European armored warfare campaign, as General Courtney Hodges's First Army prepared to cross the Rhine River at Remagen, where American forces had captured the Ludendorff Bridge intact 3 weeks earlier. The success of this operation would depend heavily on the ability to counter German panzer reserves deployed to prevent Allied expansion of the bridgehead. Technical Sergeant Hayes received orders to position his Pershing at the bridge's eastern approach, where German intelligence indicated the presence of at least 2 Tiger battalions preparing counterattack operations. The psychological pressure on Hayes and his crew was enormous. Failure to stop German armor could result in the destruction of the strategic bridge and potential collapse of the entire Remagen operation. The M-26's deployment represented more than tactical expediency. It symbolized America's technological coming-of-age in armored warfare. For 3 years, Allied forces had relied primarily on numerical superiority and air power to overcome German tank advantages. Now they possessed a weapon system that could engage the enemy's finest armored vehicles on equal terms. Oberst Heinrich Müller, commanding German armored reserves east of the Rhine, understood that his mission's success depended on destroying the American bridgehead before Allied reinforcements could establish overwhelming superiority. His Tiger tanks represented Germany's last mobile reserve in the Western Theater. Their failure would effectively end organized resistance in the Rhineland. According to operational reports filed by the 9th Armored Division, German counterattacks against the Remagen bridgehead involved coordinated employment of Tiger tanks, Panther tanks, and self-propelled anti-tank guns in a desperate attempt to sever Allied supply lines across the Rhine. The intensity of these operations reflected German recognition that losing the bridge would accelerate their final defeat. Hayes positioned his Pershing in a concealed firing position overlooking the bridge approaches, where his 90mm gun could engage German armor at maximum effective range. The tactical advantage of fighting from prepared positions, combined with the weapon's superior penetration capabilities, created optimal conditions for successful defensive operations. The first German attack came at dawn on March 24th. 5 Tiger tanks, supported by Panzer Grenadier infantry, advanced through morning mist toward the American positions. Hayes watched through his periscope as the legendary machines moved with characteristic German tactical precision, disciplined, coordinated, and professionally executed. "Multiple targets," reported Corporal Mitchell, traversing the main gun toward the lead Tiger. "Range 1,200 meters and closing." Hayes felt the familiar combination of anticipation and fear that preceded major combat engagements. Despite his previous success against German armor, he understood that each encounter carried mortal risk. A single mistake, a mechanical failure, a missed shot, a moment of hesitation, could prove fatal for his entire crew. The engagement began when the lead Tiger fired at Hayes's position, its 88mm shell impacting the concrete barrier protecting the Pershing's hull. The tremendous explosion showered the American tank with debris, but caused no significant damage to the crew or equipment. Mitchell's return shot struck the German tank's turret ring with devastating precision. The armor-piercing discarding sabot round penetrated completely, causing a massive internal explosion that killed all 4 crew members instantly. The Tiger's turret separated from its hull, tumbling through the air before crashing into the Rhine River with a tremendous splash. The psychological impact on the remaining German crews proved immediate and devastating. Their most formidable weapon, the legendary Tiger tank, had been destroyed by a single shot from this mysterious American machine. The myth of German armored invincibility suffered another catastrophic blow. Within 30 minutes, Hayes's Pershing had destroyed 3 of the 5 attacking Tigers, while the remaining German tanks withdrew in confusion and disorder. The counterattack had failed completely, ensuring Allied retention of the strategic Remagen bridgehead. April 7, 1945 found the remnants of German armored forces conducting their final defensive operations in the industrial heartland of central Germany, where American spearheads drove relentlessly toward Berlin. Technical Sergeant Hayes's Pershing spearheaded Task Force Alpha's advance toward Leipzig, where intelligence indicated the presence of a German panzer school equipped with the newest Tiger II heavy tanks. The Tiger II, also known as the King Tiger, represented the pinnacle of German tank development, a 70-ton monster armed with the fearsome 88mm KWK-43 gun and protected by armor up to 180 millimeters thick. These machines had achieved legendary status among both German and Allied forces for their devastating combat effectiveness. Hayes understood that engaging Tiger II tanks would provide the ultimate test of his Pershing's capabilities. The German vehicle's main gun possessed superior muzzle velocity and penetration compared to the original Tiger, while its massive frontal armor had proven invulnerable to all previous Allied tank weapons. This encounter would determine whether American heavy tank development had truly overcome German technological advantages. Oberst Karl Zimmermann commanded the Panzer Training School at Paderborn, where Germany's most experienced tank instructors prepared final defensive positions using their remaining Tiger II vehicles. These machines represented the last operational examples of German heavy tank technology, irreplaceable weapons that embodied years of combat experience and engineering innovation. According to captured German training documents, Tiger II crews received intensive instruction in engaging the mysterious American M26 tanks that had been systematically destroying German armor throughout the spring offensive. However, limited intelligence about the Pershing's actual capabilities hampered development of effective countermeasures. The encounter occurred on a rain-swept plain near Dessau, where Hayes's task force encountered 3 Tiger II tanks positioned in carefully prepared defensive positions. The German crews, all veteran instructors with extensive combat experience, represented the elite of Germany's remaining panzer forces. "Gunner, Sabot, tank!" Hayes commanded, as Mitchell acquired the lead Tiger II through his periscope sight. The range was 800 meters, close enough to test both weapon systems' maximum capabilities in what would likely prove the final major tank-versus-tank engagement of the European War. The Tiger II's return fire came simultaneously, its massive gun sending a tungsten-cored armor-piercing shell toward the Pershing at tremendous velocity. The projectile struck Hayes's tank squarely on the frontal armor, creating a tremendous explosion that obscured both vehicles in smoke and debris. When the smoke cleared, both tanks remained operational. The Tiger II's superior gun had failed to achieve penetration, while the Pershing's armor had withstood the most powerful tank weapon Germany had ever fielded. This technological stalemate represented the ultimate validation of American heavy tank development efforts. Mitchell's 90mm gun fired its armor-piercing discarding Sabot round with surgical precision, striking the Tiger II's frontal plate at the junction between the hull and turret. The projectile's incredible kinetic energy overcame even the massive German tank's legendary protection, causing a catastrophic ammunition explosion that completely destroyed the 70-ton vehicle. The remaining German crews, witnessing the destruction of their most formidable weapon by this revolutionary American tank, recognized that the technological balance had shifted permanently in favor of Allied forces. Their final defensive stand collapsed as surviving Tiger II tanks withdrew from positions they could no longer effectively defend. Hayes's victory over the Tiger II represented more than tactical success. It symbolized America's emergence as the world's dominant military-industrial power, capable of out-engineering and outproducing any potential adversary through superior technology and manufacturing capability. May 8, 1945 brought the long-awaited German surrender, ending the European phase of World War II and marking the conclusion of the most destructive conflict in human history. Technical Sergeant Hayes parked his battle-scarred Pershing in the courtyard of a captured German tank factory near Kassel, where twisted wreckage of Tiger production lines bore silent testimony to the industrial catastrophe that had befallen the Third Reich. The M26 Pershing's combat record spoke eloquently of American technological achievement under wartime pressure. Hayes's tank alone had destroyed 12 German armored vehicles, including 4 Tigers and 1 massive Tiger II. These victories represented more than statistical achievements. They symbolized the transformation of American military capability from industrial potential to battlefield dominance. Colonel Creighton Abrams, now commanding the 4th Armored Division, filed comprehensive reports on Pershing tank performance for review by the War Department's Ordnance Committee in Washington. His conclusions were unambiguous. The M26 had proven superior to any German tank in direct combat, validating years of American research and development investment in heavy armored vehicle technology. According to post-war analysis conducted by the Army's Ballistic Research Laboratory at Aberdeen Proving Ground, the Pershing's 90mm gun had achieved penetration rates exceeding 90% against all known German armor types at typical combat ranges. This performance represented a quantum leap in American tank gunnery effectiveness compared to previous weapon systems. The psychological impact of the Pershing's deployment extended far beyond its direct combat achievements. Allied tank crews, previously intimidated by German heavy armor superiority, completed the war with renewed confidence in their equipment and tactics. This morale transformation proved as significant as any technical specification in determining final battlefield outcomes. German tank development, meanwhile, had reached a technological dead end by war's conclusion. Projects for even heavier armor, including the mythical 1,000-ton land cruiser, remained purely theoretical due to material shortages and destroyed manufacturing facilities. The industrial base required for continued innovation had been systematically demolished by Allied bombing campaigns. Technical Sergeant Hayes returned to Detroit following his discharge from military service, where he found employment with the Chrysler Corporation's Tank Development Division. His combat experience with the Pershing provided invaluable insights for post-war armored vehicle design, contributing to programs that would shape American military doctrine throughout the Cold War period. The lessons learned from Pershing versus Tiger encounters influenced American tank development for decades. The M48 Patton tank, which entered service during the Korean War, incorporated design principles validated through World War II combat experience. Similarly, the legendary M60 main battle tank reflected engineering concepts first tested in European battles. Post-war interrogation of captured German tank commanders revealed their profound shock at encountering American heavy tanks capable of penetrating Tiger armor. Many veterans described feeling betrayed by intelligence services that had failed to warn them about this revolutionary threat. Their professional confidence, built through years of technological superiority, never fully recovered. The strategic implications of American heavy tank development extended beyond military applications. The same industrial capabilities that produced the Pershing would drive post-war economic expansion, technological innovation, and global influence projection. The war had transformed America from regional power to global hegemon through demonstrated technological and manufacturing supremacy. Hayes often reflected on his role in this historical transformation while walking through Detroit's automotive plants, where former tank production lines had returned to civilian vehicle manufacturing. The skills, technologies, and organizational methods developed during wartime continued benefiting American society long after the guns fell silent. The German tankers who had feared and respected the Tiger's legendary reputation never truly understood how completely American industry had overcome their technological advantages. The secret of the Pershing's 90mm gun remained hidden until that fatal first encounter, when superior American engineering announced itself through the destruction of Germany's most formidable armored weapon. In the end, the Pershing represented more than military hardware. It embodied American determination to outthink, outbuild, and ultimately outfight any adversary through superior technology and industrial capability. This lesson would resonate throughout the coming decades of global competition and conflict.